It's do or die time once again for the Carolina Hurricanes, and it is officially game day for Game 5.
You're Locked On Hurricanes, your daily podcast on the Carolina Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to a Monday edition of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you to the everydayer for making this your first listen of the day, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, talking everything about your Carolina Hurricanes. I am your host, Zach Martin. I am the Carolina Hurricanes beat writer over at the Hockey Writers. I also write for the Calder Times that focuses on the American Hockey League. I am also the co-host of the Surgecast, which is a weekly Carolina Hurricanes podcast, along with all of my duties here at Locked On Hurricanes. Got a very special show for you today. It's going to be going over all the news and notes from Sunday's media day for the Hurricanes before they traveled to New York to face the New York Rangers tonight for Game 5 at Madison Square Garden. And we're also going to preview tonight's game for Game 5, which is hopefully another win for the Hurricanes, so that way they can keep their playoff hopes alive. So we're going to jump into everything that was heard and said and read from the media day that was on Sunday with some players, Evgeny Kuznetsov and Jordan Martinook, along with Brind'amour, as they get ready for what is to be another exciting game, which hopefully is another win for the Hurricanes, since they did extend this series another day with their win on Saturday night in Game 4. So talking to Evgeny Kuznetsov, and he had some really good quotes from meeting with the media on Sunday. And the one that's kind of making the rounds, and it almost gives you like the ice in the veins, like type of it's a quote from a guy who's been there and done that in the playoffs, especially with the Washington Capitals, for someone who's made impacts for them in the playoffs, but also has made some impacts for the Carolina Hurricanes in his first playoffs with the team. He said, talking about Game 5, we are kind of against the wall right now, but all I want to say is it's going to be a dogfight tomorrow. There's one bowl of food and two dogs are going to compete with each other. Not mincing words, it almost gives you this aspect of it's going to be a fight. We saw in the first couple of games of the, series, and even in Game 3 with that big, hullabaloo, whatever you want to call it, between Martin Necas and Jimmy Vesey that turned into a VC and just Barry Kotkaniemi trying to go after each other type thing. It's definitely some bad blood in this series. And I know Game 3 was a huge one. I know there was a lot of, hooting and hollering in Game 4. And I know, I've on social media jokingly said, oh, are we getting a 2020s version that could potentially get to a 90s Avalanche and Red Wings type feud? I doubt it's going to be that type of blood feud. It's going to take a lot for it to happen. But you can definitely tell these teams do not like each other at all. It is very, very clear, especially with the fan bases don't like each other. You can definitely tell after how, with how Game 3, went in Carolina on Thursday, going into Game 4 on Saturday. And they're coming back to Madison Square Garden with, the Hurricanes in another do or die game once again. And it's going to be, like Evgeny Kuznetsov said, it's going to be an absolute dogfight because the Hurricanes want to keep their playoff run alive, and the Rangers kind of want to end it early for the Canes and, get on to the Eastern Conference Final. So, it's going to be just it's pretty much going to be like how Game 1, 2, and 3 were. It's like just expect the unexpected, expect, tempers to flare. There's going to be a whole lot of jawing and, guys trying to, have that slight edge on the other team as well. So like Evgeny said, it is going to be an absolute dogfight in Game 5. It's going to be very, very huge. And the fact that, Kuznetsov even said when it comes to, hoping to try to force a Game 6 that goes back to PNC on Thursday, and, more quotes from Kuznetsov that got the fans fired up. He even said they know they don't want to come back here talking about the Rangers. They know it's going to be hell here. They want to finish over there, and what we're trying to do is put the pressure on them a little bit and play our game. And he's totally right. Despite the fact the Rangers did win in Game 3, the Hurricanes fans at PNC Arena have been loud through the entire, 2 games in Games 3 and 4. So, if the Hurricanes do win Game 5 and you're bringing this back to Raleigh on Thursday night, oh my absolute goodness, that place. Like, you thought PNC was loud for 3 and 4. It's going to be extremely loud for Game 6 if the Hurricanes do win tonight to force them going back to Raleigh on Thursday. I cannot imagine what that place is going to sound like when there's a chance that the Hurricanes could go for a third straight win if it does happen. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, the Hurricanes do win Game 5. This thing does go back to Game 6 in Raleigh on Thursday. Expect that building to be loud. It's the Hurricanes feed off the crowd, and they're going to be in it right from the jump Thursday night for Game 6 if the Hurricanes do make it together, because now you're talking about momentum for a team who's won 2 straight games, got themselves back into a series and make it 3-2, and now they have a chance to tie the series up and force a Game 7 back in New York. Yeah, as Kuzi said, it is going to be an absolute, an absolute onslaught from the fan base, from the Hurricanes. It's going to be loud, it's going to be ruckus, it's going to be hard to hear for the Rangers. So yeah, the Hurricanes are going to put a lot of pressure on the Rangers in Game 5, and if something does happen where they are going back to Raleigh, expect there'll be a lot more pressure on the Rangers, because now they're really going to have to try to make sure, because if they lose that game and you're going to Game 7, a lot of momentum is swung back to Carolina's way, where you had them down 3-0. Now there's a chance that they can go 3 straight to make the series go 7. Even then, that's a lot of pressure as it is, and that's putting a lot of momentum on the Hurricanes. I would say that's still even more momentum for the Hurricanes if you go, through Game 5, and now it's welcome to Game 6. It's back in Raleigh. The Hurricanes have just won 2 straight games, and they're going to try to fight it out for another one. That is going to be a very tall order for the Rangers. But, as I said on Sunday's special survival show, recapping that was Game 4, you have to take one game at a time. Got to take one period at a time. You don't want to get yourself too far ahead. Yes, the media was asking, what's the game be like if the Hurricanes do force a Game 6 that goes back to Raleigh? Yeah, you do want to have that mindset of you want to go one game at a time because you want to get back to Raleigh for 6. That kind of plays into it. But, Evgeny, Jordan Staal, Jordan Martinook, Brind'amour, all the guys know it's one game at a time. It's one period at a time. Yes, you want to go back home for 6, but you got to get through Game 5. You already had your back against the wall in 4. Got the job done with the game-winning power play goal in the third period to force a Game 5. Now it's just take the momentum, build on what kind of did and didn't work, and then you just try to replicate it for Game 5, play a little bit better. As I said in the last show, that plus 1% better everyday mindset. And that's what the Hurricanes need to do in terms of progressing it on. And it's gonna be very interesting to see how it's gonna look. And then still talking to Evgeny Kuznetsov, are they ready to bring a fight in Game 5? And he says there's not a lot of tactics or skill plays. It's just about compete in the dogfight. That's all I can say. And they're asking, are you ready to bring the fight? And the guy says, yeah, they're gonna be ready, and it's just gonna be about, it's just making sure you're there to compete. You're gonna have to fight the dirty areas. You're gonna have to do when it's necessary. You got to score the, you got to make the plays that, it's you got to make the plays that makes it work. You got to score the power play goals, and that's all the really Hurricanes have to do is just keep building on everything that's happened. Is they got rid of they got away from the perimeter early on, and that's why it worked out to where net front presence. Steph Nason scores his goal. Seth Jarvis sets the screen for Bray Shea, so they got to bring out that net front, and that's all that really matters. So there's a lot that is going to go in it. And like I said, Evgeny Kuznetsov brought a lot of great quotes into this, into Sunday's press conference with the media. Expect the dogfight, expect that the Hurricanes are going to bring a lot of pressure to the Rangers. Because if you're in New York, you don't want this. If you don't want this thing to go past 5, because if this thing goes on to 6, that's so much pressure on you, because now you're going back to the confines of what is PNC Arena and you got to deal with a loud building that's going to be feeding off the guys who've now just won 2 straight games. And it's going to start getting to you because now it's like, oh my goodness, the momentum's on Carolina's side. Do you want to keep this going for another game? That's going to be very, very interesting. So there is more quotes that we got from the media day, and that's going to be including, Jordan Martinook, and even hearing some possible what ifs for Rod Brind'amour in terms of what he's going to do for his goalie situation on Monday. And we'll get to that here in a second on a Monday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Policygenius is the country's leading online insurance marketplace. It saves you time and money so you can provide your family with a financial safety net starting today. With Policygenius, you can find life insurance policies that start at just $292 per year for a $1 million worth of coverage. Some options offer same-day approval and avoid unnecessary medical exams. And the one thing that I really like about life insurance is the fact that since I have it, it gives you more of that type of safety in that you don't have to worry about it. It's not another thing you got to worry about or take care of. It's like you got it there, and if anything happens, you know that that's there to take care of you and your family. And with Policygenius, it helps you compare your options with top companies with their team of licensed experts is on hand to help you talk you through it. Talk to a team of award-winning agents who will walk you through the process step by step, and you can easily compare quotes for America's top insurers at just a few clicks to find your lowest price. And with Policygenius, it gives you the unbiased advice from their licensed expert support team, and in that they have no incentive to recommend one insurer over the other, so you can trust their guidance. And plus that, thousands of 5-star reviews on Google and Trustpilot from customers who found the best fit for their needs with Policygenius. Check life insurance off your to-do list in no time with Policygenius. Head to policygenius.com/lockedonNHL or click the link in the description to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you could save. That's policygenius.com/lockedonnhl. Welcome back to a segment 2 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. So, the media talked to Evgeny Kuznetsov, and they also talked to Jordan Martinook as well, and the fact that, they were asking some of the players, and especially Jordan, the fact that the Hurricanes are now out of the woods, but what's their path they need to follow to continue on through the series after winning Game 4? What needs to happen for 5 and moving forward? And Jordan Martinook said, the narrative for the marriage that we have been giving is probably not going to change much. It's the next game is the biggest game, and we are fighting for our lives. It's just about the next game and trying to do anything you can to win that game and bring it back here, which is he's pretty much right. It's just that's what you need to worry about. And like I said on Sunday, it's take it one game at a time, one period at a time. The message isn't really going to change between every game. Between games 4, 5, and 6, all it is it's the same message of worry about this game, go 1-0 that day, and then move on to the next one. So you can go 1-0 in the next game. You're not going to win 4 games in one. You're not going to come back and just boom instantly win the series. It's one of those things where it's just getting better every day, getting ready for the next game, and winning that night and win that day. Because then it's just all right. You won it. Take a breather. Move on to the next one. So I agree with Jordan Martinook here. There's no message, no narrative that's going to change. It's the same thing for games 5 and game 6, like it was in game 4. Go and play your game for 60 minutes, limit the opportunities to the Rangers, don't take a lot of penalties, try to force a lot of 5-on-5 play in what worked, net front presence, and that's what you need to do. Get to the net, create some chances, take away Shesterkin's eyes, go get those greasy goals because you got to score playoff goals, and that's what you need. Because saw it in Game 3 with Artemi Panarin. He scored his goal between the legs off a deflection right in front of the net. That's how Steph Nason got his goal from the bench. He was able to grab a rebound from Tara Vinen, got it past Shesterkin. Now, that made it 2-0 Hurricanes. And I already mentioned it. Seth Jarvis screening Shesterkin's eyes and was able to give Brady Shea a perfect shot to put the puck past him for the game winner on the power play. So, hopefully the power play kind of gets a jump now with Brady Shea going up the power play in 1. That will be something to carry on as you go along. And hopefully that's something that the team can just flow with and take into the next one. And that's all you really got to worry about is what is next. and that is the next game. What's that next period? You got to take every game by 20 minutes. As long as you're winning every 20 minutes, then you're going to go win that game. That's what it comes down to right now. There is no, oh, let's get to the next game. No, you got to focus on this game, do your job, and if you win that game, great. Then you move on and you start worrying about Game 6. But right now for the Hurricanes, as Jordan said, this is the most important game. You got to focus on this one. You got to get the job done. And then, so media did ask Rod Brind'amour on Sunday about who his starter most will likely be for that day, and Rod Brind'amour did say they don't have he's not ready to announce his starter yet for Game 5 tonight for the Hurricanes against the Rangers. So it could be very possible you might know probably about a couple hours beforehand of who's going to start in it. It could be Freddie Anderson, who played in Game 4. He did get the win. He had an okay game. Wasn't the greatest for him. You can kind of tell that he's starting to slow down a little bit. It's one of those things where he's played a lot of games for the Hurricanes outside of taking that rest for Game 3. He's pretty much played in almost every playoff game for the Hurricanes, and it makes you wonder. Him and Pierre Kochetkov played. They swapped back and forth for the last 20 games of the regular season going into the playoffs, and then it's been Freddie Anderson for the most part the entire way. It makes you wonder: is him playing so many games, is it starting to affect him? And maybe do you start looking at Peter Kochetkov as someone to kind of get more ice time, give him the more opportunities, so that way, to give Freddie more, give Anderson more rest, and maybe do you potentially go back to a flip-flop system that was working for the team when, going through March, they played, what was it, 14 games in 24 days or something like that. It was just an absurd amount of games. So it's one of those things where it's, do you go back to what was working at the end of the regular season when you're flip-flopping the goalies? And, Rod Brind'amour said they could go either way with their goalies. And it's a good option to have. It's a good thing to have when you can turn to either one of those guys and they can get the job done, because you saw it. Pierre Kochetkov, he only gave up 3 goals, and the last one was in overtime, but that's with him coming off the bench to start his first game in over 3 weeks. It was 3 weeks and 4 days coming into Thursday night's Game 3. So it's very interesting who they're going to go with. And, they even, asked Jordan Martinook about, the goalies and who they think might be, who they're okay with playing in front of. And Martinook said, it really doesn't matter which guy's in there. We have full faith in whichever one is between the pipes. Kochetkov, his Game 3 was pretty incredible. Freddie made some big saves on Saturday night for Game 4. Big one at key times, and I feel like that's what you kind of need. It doesn't matter which guy we are going with. We'll be happy with whoever is playing. And that's kind of where you're at with the mindset for the Hurricanes, is that you have to – they're good with either goalie. They've proven that they can win with either guy, because Pierre Kochetkov played a good majority of the season for the Hurricanes when Frederik Andersen was out for over 40 games with a blood clotting issue from November all the way through March, the day before the trade deadline, when they beat the Canadiens 4-1 on March 7th. So there was a long stretch where it was Pierre Kochetkov, Antti Raanta, and a few spot starts from Spencer Martin. And Pierre played really great for the Hurricanes. He kept, they started running off a lot of wins, and that's what kept them in the title hunt for the Metro through pretty much the entire season, despite having some, uncertainty in the goalie position. But now, you get Frederik Andersen back. He had a really hot start coming back, won 7 straight games. It's one of those things where either goalie could play well, and the team's comfortable with playing either in front of either one, so it doesn't matter. Both goalies have made some key saves. The thing is that the forward core and the defensemen and just the skaters themselves need to go out there and do what needs to be done. They need to play Carolina Hurricanes hockey. They need to focus on what they need to build on. The power play is now 1 for 17. Still isn't the greatest for the series, but hopefully that one kind of jumpstarts them and gets them going for Game 5. Because if that's kicking in, let's say you get more opportunities and you start cashing on the power play, then you're looking at what the Hurricanes did to the Islanders, scoring 5, 6 goals. Yes, you won, 4-3. The other games you lost, 3-2, 4-3 in succession. But you've got to start clicking on the power play goals, because the more you start getting those man advantages and you take the opportunities on them, like the Rangers had in the first 3 games, then you're looking at, okay, now you can build on leads. You can, give yourself hopefully a cushion like we saw when they were up 3-1 is, the Rangers came back in it, but the Hurricanes still had the opportunities that they needed to get the extra goals. So yeah, it doesn't matter who's in net. As long as the guy's playing good, which we've seen in the first 4 games for the most part, as long as the goaltenders do what they need to do and make the key saves, and it's up to the skaters to do what they need to do to help, get those goalies some support, play good defense in front of them, limit the high danger chances. Because right now the Rangers are a team that are playing a quality over quantity type shooting. They're not shooting very much, but when they are, it's very high danger, and that's what the team needs to worry about in terms of all of that. So we're going to dive more into previewing Game 5 and what the Hurricanes need to do, what they're going to be looking at, and possibly what possible line combinations we could be looking at. We'll go over that here in a second on a Monday/Gameday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and load it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED lights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guarantee Fit only available to U.S. customers. Welcome back to segment 3 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. Now we're going to start previewing Game 5 for tonight for the Carolina Hurricanes against the New York Rangers, and hopefully what will be a win for the team to make sure that they can try to force a Game 6 on Thursday night. So the puck drop will be at 7 o'clock Eastern. It's going to be on ESPN for if you're watching in the States. And then you also got Sportsnet and CBC if you're in Canada. And if you want to listen to the game, if you don't want to watch it, if you're not able to watch it, then you can listen to it on 99.9 The Fan with Mike Maniscalco and Tracy on the call per usual. So with the Hurricanes, it's one of those things where, Ryan Brind'amour's gone through the same lines, and it's one of these things where the Hurricanes have kept the games close. Ryan Brind'amour in close games usually likes to keep the same lines if those games are close. He might change it if it was kind of like more of a blowout type situation. So for the fact that the Hurricanes did win the way they did 4-3 on Saturday, there is a good chance you might see the same lines again. I don't know if that's the way to go, if you ask me. And I've been saying this a lot, it would be nice to have Jordan Martinook back with Jordan Staal and Seth Jarvis. That line was working together phenomenally well. You kind of want to have that group together because you saw what happened when those three were rolling. Jordan Staal and Jordan Martinook were playing okay for the most part, but you add Seth Jarvis to that line, the Jordans really just started taking off, and they played really well throughout the stretch of the regular season. And another lineup change I would see, Evgeny Kuznetsov has played really, well on the fourth line with Steph Nason and just Barry Kotkaniemi, but I would almost put him back on the second line and roll it with Teuvo Teravainen, Kuzi, and Martiniches. You could tell that there's chemistry between Kuznetsov and Martiniches. They were working together really well. I would like to see that happen and have those guys back together. I know it's been kind of a broken record at this point, but that's kind of the lines I think would work really well, because then you got Jack Drury back with Steph Nason, and those two, since their days with the Chicago Wolves, they play really well together. I think that's kind of if you throw Jordan Martinook back on the third, you swap Kuzi and Drury, I think you've got a good setup to where you can still run Getzel, Aho, and Svechnikov, because they've been playing pretty well together for the most part, especially in Game 4 with Getzel setting up Sebastian Aho for his goal. Then you got Teravainen, Kuznetsov and Nietzsche. That's a great second line. You got the Jordans back together with Seth Jarvis. The J line's going to connect. They did through the regular season. And then you got KK, down there with Drury and Nason. And that's a solid fourth line. Like, I don't see anything wrong with a fourth line like this, especially since, Kotkaniemi has had some couple chances. Unfortunately, hasn't cashed in on some of them, but, he's been played defensively pretty well for the most part on the wing. He played a lot of center through the regular season, but now where he's been playing mostly wing in the playoffs, he's been doing pretty decently, all things considered. So I wouldn't be upset if you got them with Drury and Nason, because everyone knows it just by looking at how those two play together for the regular season. There's nothing wrong with having Drury and Nason back together. In terms of the D pairs, so Brett Pesce, from the what we didn't really catch up on the news and notes, Brett Pesce was on the ice with the team. Still isn't fully ready to be back yet, because that was his, he was back on the ice with the team for the most part, but it's kind of like he did skate on Sunday. So he's not totally back yet. You were hoping that he'd be back already. I would not be surprised if he's not going to be ready for game 5. Thursday might be a good chance, but like I said, you can't really focus on game 6 right now. You got to look on game 5. So right now, Brett Pesce still isn't ready to come back for game 5. So you're looking at Slavin, Burns, Shea, and D'Angelo, and then Orlov and Chatfield. And for the most part, the defensive pairings have been okay. I mean, Burns has been Burns was really physical in game 4. I think you could tell that he was kind of hearing some of the chatter of how he was kind of off a step. He wasn't really physical. He's been kind of okay in the series, but not great. And he was throwing the body around. He was getting feisty with Vincent Trocheck. He was not taking anyone's crap in game 4. So it's kind of like he took that personally, and he really made his presence felt. So I think, game 4 is a nice bounce back for Brent Burns. Tony DeAngelo's been okay for the playoffs for the most part, with, Brett Pesce going down, but you can kind of tell he's been okay. I wouldn't say he hasn't been the greatest. He's all right. And, you kind of want to break up Chatfield and Orlov because they've been playing really well together. It's kind of to the point where you're waiting for Brett Pesce to get back so you can throw him in with Brady Shea. And, nothing against D'Angelo. He's had some key moments in the series. Other than that, it's something where it's like I said, it's a matter of time when Brett Pesce's back, he's going to come back and Lampert and replace D'Angelo. But for what D'Angelo's done as a service replacement right now while he's out, he's been okay. He's been all right. He's been serviceable. He's been manageable for the most part. So we'll see how that goes in terms of that. Goaltending, as I said in the first two, in the second segment, there really isn't an indicator who he might go in net. To be honest, if you ask me, I think Pyotr Kochetkov should be in net for game 5 because there was a day in between off for Freddie to get some rest, but you can kind of tell just playing all these games for Freddie Anderson. Yeah, he had Thursday night for game 3 off, but I would say you turn to Pyotr Kochetkov. He had a good game for game 3. He only led in 3 goals, and the last one was in overtime. But other than that, he made a lot of great saves, a lot of great poke check saves against the Rangers to hold them at bay. So if I'm Rod Brind'amour, I'd go with Pyotr Kochetkov. Maybe it's time to go back to the flip-flop, swap system where it was working on the regular season, because you don't want to keep burning out, Frederik Andersen, even if you do give him a game off. He played all right in game 4. He did make some clutch saves, but maybe it's kind of time to just go back to what was working in the regular season. And I know Luke DeCock, from North Carolina Observer and stuff like that, he said it perfectly. It might be a good thing to go back to, and I think that's what the Hurricanes need to worry about, is going back to that flip-flop system. So if you ask me, I think you go with Pyotr Kochetkov and you just run from there. So it will be very, very interesting to see what the Hurricanes do tonight for game 5 against the New York Rangers. But that will wrap up a Monday/game day edition of Locked On Hurricanes. As always, thank you to the Everydayer, exclusively for watching this. Make this your first listen of the day. Thank you so much for all the support. It's been a lot of fun doing these shows. If you want to follow me, you can follow me on OneTrueZach on X. You can also follow the show at LO_Hurricanes. If you want to follow, if you want to go to my link tree, you'll find where to find all my articles and newsletters and premium content over at the Hockey Writers. You can check out all my work at AHL at the Calder Times for anything AHL related. You can check out where to listen and watch on YouTube of my other podcast, the Surgecast. And if you want to check out where to listen to this show at Locked On Hurricanes, you can find where to find on all platforms. And if you're on the YouTube side of things, make sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification, you don't miss the show, and also hit the like button as well. I'd really, really appreciate that. And make sure to and share this with all other Hurricanes fans as well. So hopefully they become everydayers just like you. And in the comment section, let me know who you want to see in net for the Hurricanes tonight for Game 5 against the New York Rangers. And, if you're also on the podcast side of things, make sure to leave a 5-star rating to help grow the show and get more out there. And if you leave a review for your